Right, news across the globe. Top Democrats plead with party to stop looking for a Biden alternative. President Joe Biden is just as low in the White House internal polls as in any of the public ones. Whenever aides stress over the numbers in their weekly political meetings, Mike Donilon, for decades, Biden's top political advisor, is consistent voice of President's inner circle. According to people who have heard him, he says Biden's number are pretty much where they were this far from the 2022 midterms, and all the doubt sounded the same. But the president's team pursued its own careful approach to the campaigns and then saw Democrats exceed expectations. But while Biden advisors of Rep. Dean Phillips' primary challenge launched this week, they are also annoyed about it. And that annoyance betrays the fact that some of them share the same uneasiness many Democrats feel about a president whose age is twice his approval rating.
Now, the Israeli approach to ground war in Gaza aligns with US advice. Israel's apparent decision to hold off on a full scale invasion of the Gaza Strip and instead conduct more limited ground incursions, at least initially, aligns with suggestions that the US Defense Secretary Lloyd J. Austin III made to his Israeli counterparts in recent days, American officials said on Saturday. Biden administration officials warned that it was hard to tell what Israel would eventually do since increased airstrikes and expanded ground incursions in the past 3 days indicated a more aggressive posture. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel said on Saturday evening that Israeli forces had entered the Gaza Strip on Friday to begin the second stage of the war, though he did not describe the move as an invasion.
Still on this, UN wants civil order declining in Gaza as thousands take basics from warehouses. The United Nations warned on Sunday that there are signs of civil disorder starting to break down in Gaza, reporting that thousands of desperate Palestinians are taking basic items like flour and hygiene supplies from a warehouse as Israel stepped up its operation in the territory. At a news conference, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the situation in Gaza was growing more desperate by the hours. Already, their condition in Gaza created after telecommunications lines went down on Friday evening, deepening challenges for medical services and leaving aid agencies out of touch with their staff on the ground in the densely populated territory that homes more than 2 million people. The United Nations World Food Programme (WFP) also acknowledged that some of its aid supplies were taken, which he says is a warning of growing hunger.
Now, the Pakistan set to deport over 1.4 million undocumented Afghan nationals. Pakistan's government plans to deport this 1.4 million Afghan nationals after November. The United Nations is calling for the country to hold off to avoid human rights violation. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, the OHCHR, said in a press release that it is extremely alarmed by Pakistan's deportation announcement, as there are currently over 2 million undocumented Afghans living in the country. Of the 2 million, more than 600,000 are immigrants who left Afghanistan after the Taliban reclaimed power in August 2021.
Well, still on Israel, Russian aerospace forces bomb underground bunkers to eliminate terrorists. The Russian aerospace forces have bombed the underground shelters and control centers of militants involved in the shelling of Syrian government forces in the provinces of Latakia and Idlib. This was stated by the deputy head of the Russian Center for reconciliation of warring parties, Rear Admiral Vadim Kulit. The Russian aerospace forces carried out airstrikes on targets of militants involved in shelling the position of Syrian government troops on the ground shelters and control points of illegal armed group in the area of the settlement of Kabna in the province of Latakia, Barisha, and area in the province were hit. Israel is also formulating plans to eradicate the underground shelters of Hamas from where they are believed to be operating and attacking the Jewish nation from.
Now, Pope's major Vatican summit ends without actions on women deacons, mention of the LGBTQ Catholics. Pope Francis' high-stake summit on the future of the Catholic Church concluded on October 28 by postponing action on the possibility of ordaining women as deacons and failing to acknowledge deep tensions that surfaced in a month of debate over how the global institution should care for its LGBTQ members. A 41-page report approved and published that evening called for the results of earlier papal and theological commissions on women deacons to be presented for further considerations at the next assembly of the Synod of Bishops to be held in October 2024. The report, titled A Synodal Church in Mission, follows an intense month of debate at the Vatican among some 450 participants over a range of big issues, including the role of women in church, clergy, sexual abuse, and better vision of the LGBTQ Catholics.